Vietnam and the UK have established a strong bilateral trading relationship and share a strategic commitment to global trade and the free flow of capital and investment. Accordingly, the UKVFTA officially signed on December the 29th, 2020 is the foundation for further developing trade and investments between the two countries. At the same time, it provides assurance to UK and Vietnamese businesses trading in goods about the potential for continued growth, to evaluate the effectiveness of the UKVFTA on trade between the two countries in the current and future periods, and to suggest research cooperation between British and Vietnamese scholars in the future to contribute to promoting the effective implementation of UKVFTA. Today we interviewed Dr. John Walsh. He is an economic expert who has lived and worked in many countries such as the United Kingdom, Sudan, Greece, Korea, Australia, UAE, Vietnam, Thailand, and has conducted many research projects on the socio-economic development of countries, territories in the Greater Mekong sub-region. In particular, Dr. John Walsh is currently a member of the editorial board of the VNU Journal of Economics and Business. Vietnam is currently the UK's second largest trading partner in the ASEAN region, and the UK is Vietnam's second largest. In your opinion, after 2 years since the agreement took effect, how has the UKVFTA contributed to increasing trade between the two countries?
As you may know, in 2016, the UK had a referendum, as a result of which the country decided to withdraw from the European Union. As a result, all those agreements which Britain was part of because of being a member of the EU ceased to exist. Consequently, new arrangements have had to be put into place. One of these was the free trade agreement with Vietnam, which previously the UK had been part of as part of the EU's agreement with Vietnam. Consequently, much of the agreement is very similar to what was previously in place under the EU. Organizing a free trade agreement set of negotiations is complicated, lengthy, and expensive. And so countries such as Vietnam, quite rationally, want to minimize their expenditure in doing this, especially as there was no real reason, or no good reason, for Britain to leave the EU in the first place. Consequently, the UK-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement is very similar to the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement. There are some differences, mostly to the benefit of Vietnam, and they affect the ability of Vietnamese exporters to send garments, textiles, shoes, and so forth to the UK.
The UKVFTA consists an important content on green and fair trade cooperation activities, an inevitable global development trend to meet the requirements of sustainable development. What suggestions do you have for Vietnamese businesses that are transforming and adapting to this trend?
In terms of what is likely to happen in the future, well, I think the issue that most concerns us here is the role of China in global production and the possibility of conflict between the USA and China. This will be a terrible human tragedy in many ways, but in terms of the impact on Vietnamese-UK trade, it could have, to some extent, a beneficial relationship in that companies which were investing in China decide to decouple from that country and relocate their activities into Vietnam, or to somewhere else closer to home, or somewhere which is more friendly to the home country, what is called friendshoring. Quite how this would happen is really very difficult to say. A conflict is likely to be so terrible that any kind of trade activity will be pale into significance beside it. However, let us think that stable relationships can be established in the global value chains which unite the UK and Vietnam, and that the demand for goods both directions continues. In that case, then there could be possible future benefits from the existing trade. We note that trade between the two countries did increase last year.